We believe at Moderna that it's not just technology that drives progress and change, it's people using technology. We truly believe that everyone at Moderna should be empowered to transform their work and transform their jobs with the power of AI. And it got an inspiring CEO who say, better be using AI every day. There's just role modeling and support all the way from the top down.
Welcome to the Coursera podcast, where we have conversations with renowned experts and industry leaders to explore global trends impacting the future of education and work. I'm your host, Arunav, Vice President of Global Communications at Coursera. Learning and development stands at a crossroads. Employees today want more than just training. They are looking for opportunities to grow, both personally and professionally. And at a time when companies are trying to keep up with fast changing trends like artificial intelligence, shifting skills demands, and the push towards skills based hiring, it is more important than ever. So, how do you build a learning culture that inspires people while keeping up with all this change? And what's next for learning and development as the workforce continues to evolve? Today, we are talking with someone who's tackling these questions head on. Our guest today is Molly Nagler, Chief Learning Officer at Moderna. Molly's career has taken her from academia to corporate leadership, including time as CLO at PepsiCo. She comes with a unique perspective on how learning can drive results while empowering employees. She's also been at the forefront of initiatives like Moderna's partnership with Coursera to launch the free course mRNAs as Medicines. It has made groundbreaking science accessible to learners around the world. Welcome, Molly. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Arunav. It's great to be here, and I am joining you from Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Fantastic. Let's dive in. Molly, you've served as a chief learning officer at two major companies, PepsiCo and now at Moderna, both very large companies. But you started off in academia at UC Berkeley and Yale. Both, by the way, happen to be our partners. What has sparked your interest in corporate learning?
Thanks for the question. So, when I was at UC Berkeley and at Yale, I was working in the executive education space. So, I was serving the types of employees that I now am embedded with here at Moderna. And they would come for short programs on things like negotiations and leadership. And as rewarding as it was, I never felt like I was able to see the impact of learning over time because they would come and they would leave happy, but I wasn't sure if they were applying the new skills back on the job. So there was no feedback loop for us to understand whether the programs that we were designing and were hoping that were making a big impact were really doing so. So I wanted to join a company, embed there, and see the impact of learning over time and also live with the consequences of my work for better or worse. And so that I could go back and iterate and tweak and make sure that I was delivering the most value possible to the workforce.
Now, you have said something very striking. You've said that CLOs of the future need to be both anthropologists and technologists. What do you mean by that, and how has it shaped your work?
I still believe that. And what I mean by that is CLOs and all learning professionals are in the business of behavior change. And so when that is your business, then you need to understand human dynamics and human cultures and decision making and biases, habits, and all of that. So you have to understand how people really work, how people apply what they learn, how they like to learn in order to serve them and meet them where they are. So I think a real understanding of organizational culture and human dynamics is essential to be a great learning professional. And then on the technology side, there's just no learning without technology anymore, whether it's the most basic of signing up for the course via an online platform or all the tools that you use while you're learning. I think we've just found that technology is an absolutely essential enabler of the learning experience, in addition to being a topic of many learning programs as we're adopting new tools and technologies in our work. So you have to be able to understand the right use of technology in learning. If you need scale, that's a great use case for technology. If you need personalization, that's also another great use case for technology. But of course, in person gatherings are still absolutely essential and help us connect together as humans. And then that's where we come back to the anthropologist hat. I proudly wear both, and I encourage all my peers and my team to switch those hats back and forth as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Absolutely true. You've spoken about building a culture of curiosity, which is kind of even more important right now Amid the growing rate of change, people need to learn, change, and grow all the time. How can leaders embed this mindset in their organization, and how you're approaching this in inculcating this philosophy within Moderna?
Curiosity is one of Moderna's four core values. And, as a science company, that's probably not a surprise, but it really is in the DNA, so to speak, of Moderna. In addition, we have a set of 12 mindsets. And one of those is that we obsess over learning. We don't have to be the smartest, but we have to learn the fastest. And so it's embedding curiosity and an appetite to learn is something that senior leaders can do from the get go and articulating it as a core way of behaving and acting and making decisions at the company. The other way we embed it at Moderna is through storytelling. So everyone from the CEO down is known as somebody who is always taking like a continuous improvement mindset. And our CEO, Stefan Bonsell, will talk about how he sets aside a day a year to sort of reinvent his job description and to say, like, what does the company need from me now? What does the company need from me in the next year? And how can I change how I'm conceptualizing the CEO role to serve Moderna and serve our patients? And that sort of open mindedness is an important facet of curiosity. And he also does things like looking back at his schedule from the previous week and thinking, like, what went well, what didn't, how can he optimize his time, and so forth. Stories like that really are very powerful for trickling through the organization. And, you know that if someone as busy as your CEO can find time to be curious, so can you. Another way I think to frame curiosity as something important in an organization is it's really a balm or a salve for change. And change is something that can happen to you or something that you can embrace and try to steer. And if you're not curious, you're really going to be, I think, at the receiving end of change rather than the steering or driving end. And if you're not exploring how is this change an opportunity for me, for my team, for my colleagues, for the company, I think it's just the right posture to take when otherwise you might feel disrupted or buffeted by the winds of change in an uncomfortable way.
So, in fact, I just want to continue the spirit of change, and learning and development is changing fast, much in line with how companies are changing, businesses are changing, communities worldwide, the shifts that are happening and shaping our professional lives. How's Moderna, and what are some of the biggest opportunities, challenges for the function you'd see within L&D and more broadly the role of L&D within Moderna?
Learning is an essential part of the change management process. And that's because you are using learning as a venue to help people process through particular changes. But you can also teach, of course, change resilience skills, change management skills in learning programs. And so I think as a convening authority, the learning team at any company has a unique position to bring people together to ideate, commiserate, process through changes, in settings and gatherings that they wouldn't just come up with in the course of their day. And so they're sort of like sanctioned organizational venues for people to better understand change, hear from leaders, hear from each other, and process through all of that together. So I think that's a really important role that learning plays in the change process, in addition to teaching folks about what resilience looks like from a mental wellness, from physical, emotional, and all that. And so I think one of the changes you're seeing in learning as an industry is a convergence with benefits. And so that well being used to be just the territory of benefits and total rewards. And now it's something that we see as a skill, right? That people can adopt and get better at. So I think that's really great. I also see the change that AI is bringing and that we're all IT now. So anyone can build a GPT, right? A custom GPT. And we teach that at Moderna through our AI Academy. There's a change that we help the employees with. And there's also the change that we go through as learning professionals and sort of like seeing ourselves wearing different hats and the collapsing of boundaries across traditional functions and companies. And if you can embrace that and see the opportunity there, it can be really powerful for you and your career and your organization.
You've seen the transitions that learning and development has gone through within the company, from sort of on premise, in person learning to entirely on demand to now a lot more focused on sort of hybrid, where we need to bring people together and where we need to give the flexibility to. And then you talked about the impact of technology itself. I want to just understand from you what potential you see for Gen AI to transform learning within the corporate setting, and how is Moderna using AI to make learning better for employees?
I see three opportunities for AI in the learning space. One is for learning professionals to do our jobs better, faster, easily, and more efficient by partnering with our buddy ChatGPT and asking for its help in designing programs, developing modules, all that productivity boost that a learning professional can get from AI. The second is driving AI adoption in a company by, again, using the learning program as a platform. Let me give you an example. Often, learning programs will include time for reflection because we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. And so the go to is to give everybody a journal and a pen and ask them there and spend 20 minutes reflecting. Well, at Moderna, my colleagues are working on a GPT that helps you reflect and coaches you through a reflection process where you're talking to the GPT. And I think we all know that it's much more natural and fast to speak your thoughts than it is to write them down, because every time you write something down, you've naturally censored it in the process of choosing to write it. A thought comes to your mind, just stream of conscious necessarily write everything. It'd take you forever. Plus, you're just naturally censoring that. So I think, using a GPT to help you reflect and then summarize your reflections, turn it into action items, that's a very powerful way to help people see the value of AI, encourage them to adopt a tool like that in their day-to-day life. And the learning program is the introduction. It's the safe gateway to practicing with new AI tools that will enhance their productivity and also enhance the learning experience. The third opportunity for AI is to turbocharge the learning finding process. So the search process for courseware that you might want to take, for videos, modules, and it's also to just provide answers to you so that you don't need to take a training. You just need to do the thing. And for that, GPT will give you an answer, or an agent perhaps in the future will be able to do that task for you. So you'll never have to learn from the first place. Those are the three learning applications of AI. And at Moderna, we're extremely AI progressive, AI forward. We believe that we should digitize everywhere possible. It's one of our mindsets. And so we have an AI academy, a robust AI academy that takes you from entry level to creating very sophisticated custom GPTs that you use, your team uses, and possibly the entire organization. So we're definitely putting like our money and our time where our mouth is on adopting AI. It's really an amazing place to work.
In fact, the third point is really important because we know that billions of dollars will be unlocked in productivity gains, but a lot of that productivity gain will come only if the content is fully aligned to specific roles and functions. This is not just generic content, but how my role is going to change in a post Gen AI world. And I want to understand implications and change my workflow. And I think that kind of training might be most precise and aligned to the needs of individuals within the company.
That's right. So we want AI to be your companion in transforming your work. And everyone's job has some similarities, but like ultimately it's unique to like the projects you're working on and then the skills that you bring. And so that's what AI is so strong in, and giving you that personalized assist. And I think taking away the burden also of having to go through an entire training process to do simple tasks that perhaps a GPT agent can do.
Yeah, which we often call content chaos or encyclopedic approach to learning to a more precise, aligned learning is what's going to be the future like. And I think we all have to do a lot of work in that area, but definitely we are all moving in that direction.
That's right. Now there's so much content, like there's more content than anyone could ever consume. And so that's become more of a commodity. And I think the AI enables the precision. I know Coursera, you have a coach inside of your platform that you take a course and it helps you with extra examples, and it kind of adapts to your skill level and responds to your questions so that you go through even the same program as someone else, but in a way that is most helpful and relevant to you, because you can go as fast or as slow as you want.
So I want to change a gear a little bit. Moderna does quite a bit of work in STEM education, investing in the next generation of scientists and engineers. And as an example, that is the partnership with Coursera, which has made a free course on mRNA medicines available to anyone around the world. How do you see the work you're doing to remove barriers to education connecting to your own L&D strategies at Moderna?
We believe deeply in providing STEM education and reducing barriers in the STEM arena for anyone who wants that, especially for underprivileged populations, because there's about 3.5 million jobs to be filled in the US in STEM fields by next year. So it's a real pressing need, and we want to support that capability build and job creation as much as we can. And I've always seen education as a gateway to prosperity, however you define that. And I started my career in education at UC Berkeley, which has, I think, still the title of most first generation college students in the country. And just to see the social transformation that people go through when they have access to an education like that was very inspiring to me, and is why I got into this field in the first place. And when you talk about a corporate L&D strategy, it's all about reducing barriers. On the personal level, you're unlocking opportunities for every employee to reach their full potential by learning, whether that's learning on the job or learning in a formal program. And then for the company, it's the collective impact of all those transformed individuals working together for a common mission. And so I see like lots and lots of parallels. Education is all about overcoming barriers and creating opportunities for yourself and the organizations that you care about.
It's great to see Moderna is not just investing in building a talent within the company, but actually talent pipeline outside the company as well. But that's not very common, right? So if you look at Accenture recently reported that 66% of the leaders wouldn't hire someone without AI skills, but only 5% of companies are actually rolling out reskilling programs at scale. With AI changing the game so quickly, why do you think companies have been slow to act, and how can L&D help workforces catch up?
If we're talking about AI reskilling in particular, I think there's a couple of things happening. One, I think the perfect is the enemy of the good, and they're not exactly sure how AI will enable their business strategy down the road. And because of that, they're not sure what capabilities their employees need in AI, or they're worried because of the power of AI that folks could misuse it. And so they may be waiting for like the perfect set of policies or the perfect governance structure before they quote unquote unleash AI into the workforce. And we just natively as a company, we have the belief that we should pursue options in parallel and is the best way to make a decision down the road. And so we have been working in parallel to give access to employees to ChatGPT Enterprise while crafting a governance and policy structure based on the real time usage. And I don't think you can do that in isolation. So if you don't see how people are using it, it's very hard to craft like the appropriate guardrails. And so we've been able to both support and foster that innovation cycle of thousands of employees using a brand new tool in ways no one could have ever imagined, while at the same time kind of like troubleshooting as needed and then coming up with a governance structure that makes sense once we have enough usage for us to feel like, okay, like this is going to be the value of the tool and how we want to govern it. It may also be that companies aren't comfortable talking about the downstream implications of AI for people's jobs. So they're avoiding it. I mean, we believe at Moderna that it's not just technology that drives progress and change, it's people using technology. And so we truly believe that everyone at Moderna should be empowered to transform their work and transform their jobs with the power of AI. And again, we've got a great executive committee and an inspiring CEO who say, you know, you better be using AI every day. And he talks about how he uses AI. There's just role modeling and support all the way from the top down.
Outstanding. Now, personalization is a big focus in any modern L&D right now, and especially that's possible because of the technology that we have now. How does Moderna balances making learning programs scalable because you have a large workforce, but also keep the learning programs relevant for each individuals? And I know you touched a little bit on how you use ChatGPT, but if you can more broadly talk about this from your own holistic approach perspective, that will be very instructive for the audience.
Absolutely. So a few things to say about that before I even get to AI. You know, we use a persona-based approach to design and deliver learning so that if you're a manager, if you're an individual contributor, if you're in this function or that function, you have a specific set of learning needs, and we're organized in a way that enables us to serve those distinct populations. And so we bring people together, whether virtually or in person, for those kind of common core consistent learning needs. And then for the other, say, 20% of the skill set that they need that's personalized, we have content libraries, we have a Coursera subscription, we have others. And we also have micro learning that sends little programs out to you via Microsoft Teams. And so there's a nice like learning ecosystem of content that is both universal enough that people feel like we're all in it together, and that because learning is social, they're able to come together and learn together, but also personalized by their job and their interests, right? So we have a learning platform where you can search and find all manner of interesting courses based on your own passions. We also use virtual reality at our manufacturing sites to help people learn to use different machines before they are actually in the situation where they are using them. So it's a safe practice space and it saves a ton of time, and I think gives people the chance to spend as much or as little time as they like, kind of manipulating the machine in VR. So that's another really helpful way of personalization. And then finally, we have a lot of custom GPTs that help answer people's questions that were not developed by learning because they're developed by the subject matter experts. And I see them though as learning because they're delivering the information and the tips and the skills that people need. So we have benefits GPT. So when it's time for you to sign up for annual open enrollment for your benefits, there's a GPT where you can ask it about, what's the parking benefit? What's the difference between healthcare plan A and plan B? And I think in the old world, you would have to have a one size fits all job aid or training or meeting that would sort of answer most people's questions, but never quite get that last mile. And the GPT really gets you to the last mile of learning, where you're asking it to help you in your particular family situation, your particular commute, for example, and it gets just a ton of uptake, and it spares the learning team from having to design, one size fits all programs. We have another custom GPT that is for our finance processes that has actually won an award from Brandon Hall for helping folks adopt a new back-end processes and technology and answer questions. Again, otherwise it would have been just like this sea of documents and job aids, and instead you get to just converse with this GPT about where to find this, what button to click, and it personalizes it for you by its nature and really reduces like the number of tickets we see from folks not understanding how to do things.
That's super helpful. Now, looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of learning and development and any emerging trends or ideas that you're currently exploring?
I said before, like we're all IT professionals, and I think we're all learning professionals. So the benefits GPT was not built by the learning team. It's a vehicle. Everyone's now empowered to deliver, kind of institutionalize their knowledge and deliver it to others outside the realm of a formal learning program. I think that's just incredibly powerful, and just it will revolutionize the field of knowledge management in general to provide folks access to all that wisdom in an on-demand way and a personalized way. And then the learning professionals will learn how to code via Gen AI. That's what you're doing when you're talking, you're building things in AI. And so you might have in the past, like any team, especially learning, would have this wish list of IT projects that get on a backlog. And the IT team's only so big, and they can only build so many learning systems for you at a time. And so you have this long wish list of all these amazing different personalized systems that you're either hoping to buy or build that your IT team will build. And now, you know what? We're all empowered to create a lot of these tools ourselves if you can just learn the generative AI skills to do that. And so I think it unlocks an amazing amount of value, and again is like this convergence and collapse of boundaries across functions that are very inspiring if you are a lifelong learner. I mean, I can't imagine a better way to increase your human capital like on the job market than to have new IT skills and, new knowledge sharing skills, right? So super excited about that. And the projects we're working on really are all about helping people get better access, easier access to knowledge and learning through the most personalized AI interfaces that we can create for them.
Okay, that's a great note to wrap this episode. Thank you so much, Molly, for such an insightful and inspiring conversation. Hearing how Moderna fosters curiosity, drives innovations, and makes science accessible to everyone truly underscores the power of learning for both institutions and organizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
To our listeners, if you're curious about mRNA technology, be sure to check out Moderna's mRNAs as Medicines course on Coursera. It's free and a fantastic resource for anyone interested in science and innovation. If you enjoyed this episode of the Coursera podcast, please rate, review, and share. Until next time, I'm Arunav. Thank you for tuning in.